If it were just a question of leadership, if it were just a question of a great idea, this would have happened already. When you get down into it, there's a lot of debate, there's a lot of disagreement. And I want to take you to a mountaintop. Matt Norpel now, he's an environmental advocate, and he makes a case about coal.
When you mine a mountain like this, you can't put windmills on it anymore. And of course, windmills will produce energy for as long as the wind's blowing. This is wrong because it's taking a precious natural resource, our mountains, and extracting the maximum amount of profit out of it right now. Instead, we should be investing in renewable energy that will provide jobs for generations and generations, renewable energy that will provide electricity for generations, and it will not destroy the mountains, and it won't destroy the land, and it won't destroy the communities.
Sounds good, but there's another side to this. Out in West Virginia, we found those other sides. There are people who say there are jobs at stake. This energy is plentiful. It's not something the United States of America has to import. And from Frank Stewart here in Washington, his case for coal.
Today we hear a lot of talk about there is no such thing as clean coal. Well, indeed, at one point there was no such thing as a cell phone. There was no such thing as a flat-screen TV. There was no such thing as a man on the moon. We have to move toward developing those. Currently, we are anticipating, with the best statistics we have, that in excess of 50% of our electricity will be powered by coal. We need to move toward clean coal.
He is concerned about the effect, if you take coal offline, of the impact that that's going to have on minority and other disadvantaged communities because cheap power would go away. Is he right?
It's a critical consideration because coal is abundant, affordable, reliable, and it's made here in the USA.
She said no. I saw you say no.
You did see me say
it's a transitional issue. It's a transitional issue.
What do you mean?
Coal is clean now. I mean, we're spending hundreds of millions of dollars.
Jim, you just saw a mountaintop being raked into the valley. You cannot say that clean is coal. The coal is clean. You can say that you can strip the mercury.
We've cut the air pollution from coal, the stuff that creates human health problems, and we're cutting it even more. And the U.S. is a leader in the world on that. We need to figure out how to capture the CO2 from coal, because if we can, it's going to be very important to lifting people out of poverty all around the world. China, India, South Africa, Mexico, Russia. These countries are dependent on that fossil energy source right now to create a better quality of life for their people. So can you cut the pollution from it? We can do that. We should make the investment, because if we don't, China and India aren't going to. But secondly, we need to be gearing up for all the efficiency we can get, all the renewables we can get, and all the nuclear we can get, which are zero-emission sources.
So you mentioned clean coal. This is Sally Benson. She is a researcher and a professor at Stanford University. She's looking into this carbon capture and storage in the lab.
We take rocks like this. This is a sandstone rock. This is the kind of rock we would store CO2 in. And see, it's got very little pore spaces, but this can actually hold a lot of CO2. But that's only part of the story. The other part, and very important, is the seal. See how dark it is, see how dense it is. This seal sits on top of a rock like this. So the CO2 is stored here and trapped underground by a rock like this.
All right, she's doing it in the lab, she says. She believes it. Why aren't you doing it all across the country?
Nobody's figured out how to do it at scale yet. It's going to take at least 10 to 15 years.
Sally Benson says this will work.
Sure, it works. It doubles the cost of coal.
Doubles the cost?
Doubles the cost of coal if you happen to have a power plant next to an oil field.
So what happens in China? Because you got to put the stuff someplace.
Yeah.
Okay. China is putting on a new coal-fired plant every week to 10 days.
No, this is why
you're breathing it.
This is why
we're breathing it. The world is breathing it.
And so they will do until we show that investing in efficiency, investing in renewables is a better economic proposition.
Do you favor putting more money into research on carbon capture and storage? Is there a future there for that?
I will never speak against research, but thinking that we are going to, in 10 to 15 years, be able to begin to make a start building systems to solve the climate problem, Dr. Jim Hansen says if we don't, in the next year or two, dramatically start cutting our carbon emissions, we have roasted Earth. Yeah. Sorry, folks, tilt game over.
Yeah, but that was the argument 20 years ago against being able to do all these renewables, because it was so expensive, we just can't do it. The same is true on carbon capture and storage for coal. By the way, the same is true, just think, the electricity generation sector is the one sector that actually figured out how to get off petroleum. 20 years ago, a big chunk of our electricity generation, or 30 years ago, was fueled by oil. We got out of it.
This is a really interesting moment to bring up this thing that we've got connected with Planet Forward called the Energy Learning Curve. The Energy Learning Curve is a public opinion survey taken by our partners at Public Agenda. And what they find is 53% say they feel the government should ban the building of new coal-fired power plants, even though it's plentiful and inexpensive. What does that tell you about where the public is?
Well, the public actually is learning, just beginning to learn again the different places where they get energy from. I mean, my view is if I have a choice between taking an old coal plant offline that's not very efficient and putting in a new state-of-the-art 95% pollution-controlled coal plant in its place, I'll take that any day because it's a net environmental improvement. On our way to building out renewables, on our way to building a new generation of safe and reliable nuclear power plants.